Yo, what is up guys? It's the Goblin and welcome back to another Call of Duty Black Ops 4 video. In tonight's video, we are going to be talking about the ICR-7, which when the game first came out was regarded as one of the best weapons in the game and still is very, very good in a niche weapon because of what it's good for at long range and just absolutely demolishing your enemies in those straight up gunfights across the map. And we're going to talk about how to make this weapon overpowered as of right now, August going into September 2019, and why I think the ICR, because it does have a very staggering weakness on it, being the fact that you're basically a scarecrow or a statue in the way that I like to put it, because you don't have stock available on this weapon. And as an assault rifle, that's a pretty sticky weapon. It doesn't have too much strafe just built in on it by itself, not having stock 1 or stock 2 available on the weapon. And honestly, the attachments on this thing are very limited, and that was of course for a reason, which we'll talk about in a second. But we'll go over class up, we'll get right into it and talk about this weapon. If you guys could drop a like on this thing, smack that like button. Let's go ahead and go for 607 likes. If we could hit that, that would be absolutely incredible. Subscribe to the channel if you guys are new and not already subscribed, and let's go ahead and get right into it. Now, the ICR, of course, is a weapon that the number one weakness of this thing is that, like I said, no stock statue sort of feeling. The number one strength of this thing is there literally is no recoil. It's an absolute laser, and it doesn't stop. It doesn't change at range. At range, this thing is the exact same laser gun, and that's what gives this thing the strength. Is even if you're going up against someone that has a KN or a Maddox or, you know, other weapons that are strong and can take out players at a distance, in a real long line of sight gunfight, the ICR will demolish those weapons. However, in a strafe close to medium fight, those weapons would demolish the ICR. So that's what this weapon has gone from being as sort of one of the strongest overall weapons. It still is super strong overall, but it's made more into a niche strategy, and you see people using it in competitive and professional play like that as well, where maybe if you're playing on Arsenal SND and you have to hold down that left long side, or if you're playing on a map like I like to use it on firing range, where you can honestly sort of play a bit slower and just use this weapon to pick people off at range all game long. And we'll talk about the class stuff, and then we'll talk more about this weapon and tips and tricks for it. But just to get a general idea, yes, this is not your run and gun sort of weapon. This is your defensive weapon, to say the least, as an assault rifle. So let's go ahead and talk about the class setup with this thing. Now, as far as the perks and attachments that you have, the attachments are actually very limited for this weapon. The only available attachments that you have are Grip 1, Grip 2, FMJ, Quick Draw, Laser Sight, and Long Barrel. So that's it. Only 6 selections, and 2 of those are grip. So you really don't have that many selections when it comes to attachments on this weapon. And I think that is because they know what this weapon is designed for, and that is something unique to Black Ops 4, is that all the weapons having different attachments as sort of balance aspects is very cool as well. Because something like an MX9, which, I mean, now it's a pretty good SMG, but they have the hybrid mags on that, which is super duper strong. But then when you come into an ICR, if an ICR had hybrid mags in stock, this would probably be an absolute demolishing of a weapon. So that's why they have to limit it with those attachments. So what do I personally rock here? I rock with 3 attachments on this weapon. Now, the first 2 attachments I go with are Grip 1 and Grip 2. Now, these are not for the traditional way that you would think when you use grip, and that is obviously that you don't want to have recoil. To be straight honest, I mean, this gun doesn't have recoil pretty much no matter what sort of class setup you're using it with. I use those 2 attachments so that I can get myself the strength of Grip 2, which Grip 2 is actually very helpful. And of course, it's been nerfed because honestly, it was a little bit too strong when the game first came out. But what Grip 2 does is it allows you to, of course, you have the minimized recoil when aiming before firing, and then it also reduces your flinch when aiming down the sight. So in those direct fights where you're shooting at someone across the way, that can come in pretty handy. And even in those fights where you might get caught medium to close range, being able to have a weapon that, of course, doesn't have recoil, so you don't worry about that kicking up, but you also don't have to worry about the flinch kicking up, can be very nice to have. So Grip 1 and Grip 2 for that reason. Obviously, it is kind of a little bit of a waste, you could say, because the grip doesn't really affect in the traditional way, but you don't really have many options on this weapon. Like, laser sight is not really a good option unless you are, you know, expected to get run up on players close range when you want to hold your engagements to long range with this weapon. So Grip 1 and Grip 2. And then with my third attachment, what I rock here is I rock with Long Barrel. And the reasoning behind this is your options for this one, you basically have to pick between FMJ, Quick Draw, and Long Barrel, because I don't want to rock the laser sight. So Quick Draw can be nice, but of course it's designed for, this is a weapon where, as you can see, the majority of these fights, I'm already aiming down sights at the spot, literally just waiting for enemies to appear and then just taking the shot. So Long Barrel I found was the one that actually affected me in the most amount of gunfights fights, because a lot of the fights are going to be at a range where long barrel will kick in and will allow you to finish off your gunfights just a little bit quicker, which can be a big deal. The other attachment that I find, quick draw, honestly, like, probably one of my favorite attachments in this game and in the history of Call of Duty, but on this weapon, it just doesn't fit with that synchronizing. This is a weapon where you're stared down, aiming down sights. I mean, look at me right here. I'm posted up, 200 points off of score streaks. I'm definitely camping right here because I'm that close to score streaks. I'm 1 kill off, so I'm just going to chill out, get that 1 kill, and then leave the building and go out and rush. That's, of course, the type of strategy you want to play with this weapon. So long barrel as far as that third attachment. Honestly, I think quick draw is a little bit useless, not useless, but not as good because of the playstyle. I think FMJ can be absolutely deadly on this weapon. I've seen other combos with people going with the grip 1 FMJ and then long barrel, and that combo can definitely work as well. I think it just depends on what you're sort of shooting through. On a map like Firing Range, there is a decent amount of spots you would wall bang, maybe in the top middle or in this building a little bit, but you know, like you see a gunfight like that, FMJ would have a little bit of an impact on a gunfight like that. But once again, that's going to affect probably less gunfights than long barrel would, and that's what my mentality was, and that's why I went with those 3 attachments. Now, for the full class setup, I will show it up on the screen right now. Those are the 3 attachments. Then we rock with the gear of ComSec device, which is pretty self-explanatory. You don't want to rock stim shot on this weapon just because it's not a run and gun type of weapon. It just isn't. It's made for literally posting up in a domination on Firing Range, getting the streaks, leaving your post when the streaks are up, and causing some havoc. That's sort of what this class setup is designed to do. That's why I run with that as far as ComSec device. As far as the specialist, I also rock with the crash specialist, usually if I can. This game right here, someone actually took it from me, so I had to hop in with the Nomad, which also works decent as well, because you get the attack dog, which picks up some free kills, and then you also get basically being able to post up those mesh mines. Can actually help you if you are trying to camp or post up in a spot, but crash usually for me, just because of scavenger could work with this weapon as well, but you're not really being that mobile, so you won't even if you have scavenger, you won't be picking up those packs as much. And then just the ComSec device paired with the hardline aspect you get of picking up those assault packs off of the crash specialist is very, very deadly. As far as perk setup, I go with flak jacket as far as my perk 1, for the fact that you are going to be probably sitting around similar areas, maybe not one spot for the whole game, but it's probably 1, 2, like in this map, I'm either posted up on that A building, posted up in that middle tin building, posted up top here, or rotating around the side. There's not much, I'm trying to keep my engagements to a long range, so that's why I'm trying to, there's only certain angles that you could play. Flak jacket, of course, prevents people from nading you out of your similar spot if you are just posting up or sending RC cards or whatever they want to do. Gung Ho as far as perk 2, which once again, Gung Ho, it doesn't fit that well with this weapon, but it just is the best perk 2. You could go with lightweight here, but I just think Gung Ho is going to affect more gunfights than that. And then perk 3, Dead Silence, once again, another one where honestly the attachments in this game are pretty whack. Not the attachments, sorry. The attachments are amazing in this game, and the operating mods, I think those are incredible. The perks in this game are pretty whack. And just like perk 3 here, I can, Team Link isn't really going to do much for me. Dead Silence isn't going to do much for me because I'm not really running around. Ghost isn't going to do much for me because I'm basically posted up. I'm not really moving around, so Ghost only works when you're moving. There's not really too many options you have as far as here. Maybe you could go with something like a tracker. I just throw on Dead Silence just because, Dead Silence will prevent those acoustic sensor people from coming up on you. And even on the other aspect, if you play, usually when I play, I'm just playing casually, maybe listening to a podcast or music. But if you actually are going try hard with this class setup, you turn up that headset, turn up your Astros a little bit, and have that Dead Silence. That can actually be smart because you can hear people sneaking up on you. Although, with Call of Duty, it really depends. And honestly, Treyarch games, it's so different from a lot of other games with just how sound whoring works and being able to hear your enemies. But that's what we go for as far as the full class setup. Like I said, with this weapon, it's one where you can't just pick this weapon and just think that you can just run around and just dominate enemies. You're going to get destroyed by people with SMGs, by people with even an assault rifle with stock. I mean, you just can't keep up with those fast players. But you need to realize what they can't keep up with you on is, this gun, you can challenge snipers. Obviously be careful when you're peeking those snipers, but you can challenge people at those long range fights. And the majority of players who, if they don't have an ICR or let's say like a swordfish or an auger, there's only a limited amount of weapons in the game that can challenge this thing at a distance. Of course, course, I didn't even talk about it, but I run with the reflex sight on this thing. Speaking of which, I just picked up someone's that had like a thermal on it or something like that. But yeah, I just run with a normal red dot sight on this weapon, just because that's what I like with the ICR. The default sights are okay as well, but I just run with the normal one. And I also have the Mark II, which gives me 25% extra XP for each kill, which is kind of like, I mean, those first came out in what, IW, I think. I mean, those are sort of, it's cool and it's a bonus, that 25% extra XP. It's enough to throw it on and use it, but it's not really enough to get super hyped about or to go after the weapons for. Anyway, I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Definitely give this weapon a test if you are looking for, it's made for maps with those long, you know, a map like a jungle, a map like firing range, map where you have those long lines of sight, and you can really let that long barrel and the grip too take effect and just go ham. Thanks for watching. Drop a like on this video if you guys did make it to the end. Subscribe if you guys are new. Let me know in the comment section down below which gun or weapon you want me to class it up for next in Black Ops 4, and that's about it. I'll catch you in the next one, and I'm out. Peace.